Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is, well, it's to cut through some of the confusion, maybe decades of misinformation, around something really stressful for dog owners: separation issues.
hmm
And we're not just talking about a dog who misses you a bit. We want to get into the modern clinical way of looking at what's now called separation-related disorders, or TRS.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And it's such a crucial shift. We're finally moving past this, frankly, obsolete idea of bad behavior.
Right.
For so long, if a dog, wrecked the sofa or had an accident inside, the go-to assumption was revenge, spite.
Yeah, he's mad at me for leaving.
Exactly. But the science, the understanding based on emotion and neurobiology, it tells a totally different story now.
So let's maybe start with the big takeaway, the aha moment we want everyone listening to really grab onto from the beginning.
Absolutely. Here it is. When your dog is destructive or eliminates while you're gone, it is not malice. It's not disobedience. It's the outward sign of, well, sheer panic,
Mhm.
fear, deep, deep insecurity.
So it's like a physical reaction.
Physiologically, yes. It's very much like a severe human panic attack. And making that distinction is fundamental. The dog isn't misbehaving.
Mm.
The dog is genuinely unwell.
Okay. Okay, that changes everything. So if the dog is essentially having a panic attack, how we react when we get home, well, punishment is obviously out. The sources are really clear on that.
Oh, absolutely. Punishment is not just ineffective, it's actively harmful.
Why is that? From the dog's perspective.
It comes down to how their memory works, really. A dog simply cannot connect your anger or punishment hours later, when you walk in the door, to something they did way back when they were in that crisis state.
Ugh, the timing is all wrong.
Completely. All the punishment does is pile on more fear, more anxiety, onto what's already a really distressing situation for them. And crucially, it damages trust.
Mm.
It pretty much guarantees things will get worse, not better.
Okay. So if it's not just anxiety, though the symptoms often look similar, like the destruction or the barking, what else could be going on? What are these different drivers behind TRS?
That's why the broader term separation-related disorders is so important. Because you're right, anxiety isn't the only game in town. We really need to distinguish between, broadly, three main causes. It dictates the whole treatment approach.
Okay, what's on that spectrum?
Well, first you might have frustration. This is pretty common in dogs that maybe have low tolerance for frustration, or they aren't getting enough mental or physical stimulation.
Do they act out?
Yeah, the destruction, the barking, it can look identical to panic, but the emotion underneath is this intense frustration. Maybe they can't get to you, their attachment figure, or access something they want.
Okay. And then there's the one we typically think of.
Right, the classic fear or panic. That's the true isolation phobia,
Mm.
this overwhelming, crushing fear of being alone.
And the third.
Boredom. Now, this might sound less serious, but for, say, high-energy breeds, working dogs, if their need for activity, both physical and mental, isn't met, destruction can simply be them making their own fun. Expensive fun, usually.
Huh, yeah. So why is getting that diagnosis right so critical? Can't we just try a bit of everything?
Well, you risk wasting really valuable time and potentially making things worse. Imagine treating severe boredom like it's a deep-seated phobia. You might go down the route of medication that isn't actually needed.
Or the other way around.
Exactly. If you treat a genuine panic disorder with just, more walks and a food puzzle, you're fundamentally misunderstanding and neglecting a serious emotional problem. The dog keeps suffering, the family gets more and more stressed. It often leads to treatment being abandoned altogether.
That makes a lot of sense. So what are the specific signs owners should look for? Things that really signal this is TRS beyond just barking.
The absolute key is that these behaviors happen only when the dog is alone or believes they're alone.
Right.
Destructive behavior often zones in on exit points, chewing doors, scratching window frames. It's a sign of trying to escape the situation.
And the house soiling.
People often see urination or defecation inside as deliberate spite. He knows better. But, like we said, it's usually a physiological response to extreme panic. They literally lose control.
What about signs when we are home? Does it manifest then too?
Oh, definitely. You often see intense hyperattachment. The dog becomes a shadow, a Velcro dog, always needing physical contact.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the anticipatory anxiety. I think almost everyone listening might recognize this one. The dog starts shaking, whining, maybe even physically blocking the door as soon as you do something that signals departure.
Like grabbing the keys.
Grabbing keys, putting on a coat, picking up a bag. Even just checking your watch sometimes. It's really tough to witness.
It is. Okay, so we know what it looks like. Where does it start? The sources talk about etiology, the cause, being really key for understanding how severe it is and maybe how long recovery might take.
Precisely. We tend to categorize it into three main types based on the origin. Type A is what we call primary hyperattachment.
The primary meaning, early.
Yes, rooted very early in life. Maybe the puppy was separated from its mother too soon, poor socialization, early weaning. Basically, the dog never really developed the skills for emotional independence, for self-soothing.
That sounds like it would be deeply ingrained. What's the outlook there?
It often is.
Yeah.
Because it stems from those critical developmental windows, the prognosis for type A is typically more reserved. It often means a longer treatment process and frequently needs sustained professional help, including medication, alongside the behavior therapy.
Okay. Then there's type B, secondary hyperattachment.
Right. This is when you see a sudden onset in an adult dog who previously coped perfectly fine with being alone.
So something triggered it.
Exactly. A major life event, often something traumatic from the dog's perspective. A big move, losing a family member, human or canine, being abandoned and rehomed, or the really common one now, the owner returning to the office after a long period of working from home.
Ah, the post-pandemic effect.
It's a huge factor. Their whole sense of security gets pulled out from under them.
Is the prognosis better here?
Generally, yes. It's often more favorable than type A, provided the family commits fully to the treatment plan. Because the dog had coping skills before, the potential to regain them is there.
And the last one, type C, conditioned isolation fear.
This one's different again. It's purely phobic. The dog isn't necessarily afraid of being alone in general, but they've learned to associate being alone with a specific, terrifying event that happened while they were alone.
Like what?
Could be a burglary, terrifyingly loud construction noise right outside, a severe thunderstorm or fireworks. Something really scary happened while the owner was out. So now, being alone predicts terror.
Wow, so that needs a different approach too.
Yes, it often requires a dual treatment tackling the fear of isolation and the specific phobia, like noise sensitivity.
This really connects to human attachment theory, doesn't it? Bowlby's idea of the secure base. How does that apply to our dogs?
It applies incredibly well. The goal is for the owner to function as that reliable, predictable, secure base. When a dog feels that security, they have the confidence to explore, to rest independently, to handle a bit of uncertainty, because they know their person is a safe harbor they can return to.
It builds resilience.
Exactly. Emotional resilience.
Now, here's where I think people get tripped up. They see a Velcro dog, this hyper-attachment, and think, okay, I need to teach detachment, ignore the dog more. But the sources say pushing them away can actually make it worse.
It absolutely can backfire because that kind of inconsistent interaction, sometimes smothering them with affection, sometimes shutting them out, that actually fuels what we call insecure, anxious attachments.
Sure, dog worries.
Constantly. They become anxious about the reliability of the relationship itself. So the solution isn't forced detachment or ignoring their needs. It's about actively building a different kind of bond, transforming that insecure, clingy relationship into a secure, healthy attachment.
How do we do that? What are the practical steps for building that secure base and encouraging healthy independence?
Consistency is king. Predictable routines for feeding, walks, playtime, that helps a lot. Responding to their needs is important, but, and this is crucial, avoid reinforcing constant demands for attention, like whining or pawing, just to get you to interact.
So don't reward the demanding behavior.
Right. And actively praise and reward the dog when they are doing something independently while you're home, resting quietly on their bed, playing with a toy by themselves. You want them to learn that calm, independent behavior gets positive attention too.
Okay, that leads us nicely into the actual treatment plan. If this is about emotional learning, not just obedience, let's talk training strategies. Desensitization and counter-conditioning come up a lot.
They're foundational. So desensitization to departure signals. That means taking all those little actions that trigger anxiety, grabbing keys, putting on shoes, picking up your work bag, and doing them without actually leaving.
So you break the connection.
You strip those actions of their predictive power. You jingle your keys, then sit down on the sofa, put your coat on, walk to the kitchen, take it off again. You do it repeatedly at a level below the dog's reaction threshold until those things become meaningless background noise.
And counter-conditioning, that's about changing the feeling itself.
Exactly. You're working to change the dog's emotional response to the departure. You consistently pair the moment you leave or are about to leave with something incredibly positive, something really high value.
Like a special treat.
A super high value treat they only get when you leave. Or a special puzzle toy like a frozen Kong stuffed with something amazing. The goal is for your departure to predict something wonderful is about to happen, not something terrifying.
Now, there's been a shift in thinking about departure routines. The old advice was often make departures totally random and unpredictable. But now there's this idea of a safe signal. Why the change?
Well, the potential downside of complete unpredictability is that the dog might just remain in a state of low-level generalized anxiety all the time because they never know when the separation might happen. That constant uncertainty is stressful in itself.
Ah, okay, so the safe signal offers certainty.
Precisely. It gives the dog information and predictability. You develop a unique, clear signal. It could be a specific phrase you say calmly, leaving a particular item out, or even turning on a specific radio station that reliably communicates, okay, I am leaving now, but this is a safe departure and I will be back.
It reduces that stressful uncertainty.
Exactly. It gives them a sense of control in a situation where they feel powerless.
Alongside the training, changing the family's own habits seems just as vital. Let's talk about the neutral exit and the quiet return.
Oh, these are non-negotiable for managing the emotional peaks around leaving and coming home. The neutral exit means for about 15, maybe 30 minutes before you leave, you basically ignore the dog.
No big emotional goodbyes.
Absolutely not. Those tearful, drawn-out goodbyes just ramp up the dog's anxiety and confirm that, yes, something awful is about to happen. Your departure needs to become a total non-event. Calm, boring, uneventful.
And when you come back, it's tempting to have a huge reunion.
It is, but the quiet return follows the same logic. When you walk in, ignore the dog no matter how excited they are until they physically calm down. Then, once they're settled, you initiate a calm, gentle greeting.
What does that teach them?
It reinforces that calmness is what gets your positive attention and connection, not frantic, anxious, bouncing, and whining.
Okay. And quickly, enrichment. Things like puzzle toys, exercise, they're always recommended, but there's a catch.
Enrichment is definitely important. Good quality exercise, especially activities involving smell, like scent work that's incredibly tiring for their brains. But here's the critical caveat. If a dog is already in a state of severe panic, their brain literally isn't capable of engaging with a puzzle toy or even eating. The anxiety overrides everything. So leaving a Kong is pointless if the dog is too panicked to touch it. Enrichment is supportive, but it won't cure a panic disorder alone.
Right, that makes sense. And when that panic is too high, when behavior training alone isn't enough, that's where professional help, especially medication, comes in. Let's tackle the stigma. People often feel like medication is a last resort or a sign they've failed.
And that's such a harmful misconception. Medication is absolutely not a failure. In moderate to severe cases, it's often a necessary first step. There's a clear neurobiological reason for it.
Which is?
When a dog is experiencing severe anxiety, their brain is flooded with stress hormones, primarily cortisol.
Okay. And if the brain is flooded like that, what does it mean for trying these training techniques we just discussed?
It means the dog literally cannot learn. Those stress hormones effectively shut down the part of the brain responsible for learning and rational thought, the prefrontal cortex. So the behavioral therapy just can't get through.
So the drugs help clear the way.
Exactly. Medications like SSRIs, fluoxetine is a common one, or TCAs like clomipramine, they work to reduce that overwhelming anxiety down to a level where the dog's brain can actually process information and learn new associations. They act as learning facilitators.
That's a really important perspective. How long do they usually take?
It's important to be patient. SSRIs, for instance, can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to reach their full therapeutic effect. It's not an instant fix.
Good to know. So given this is a specialized issue, finding the right professional help is key. Who should people be calling? It sounds like a team approach.
It really should be. For any moderate to severe case, the cornerstone is a veterinary ethologist or a veterinary behaviorist. They are the only professionals qualified to make a differential diagnosis, rule out underlying medical issues that could mimic these signs, and, crucially, to prescribe medication.
Okay, so the vet behaviorist handles the diagnosis and medication. Who does the day-to-day training plan?
That's typically a certified canine behavior therapist or a qualified canine educator who specializes in behavior modification. They work with the vet behaviorist to design and help the family implement the practical plan. the desensitization protocols, the counter-conditioning, the safe signal training, adjusting
So
routines.
they work together.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative effort, and a quick warning. Your average dog trainer, even a good one, often doesn't have the specific training in clinical animal behavior and emotional pathologies needed for complex cases like TRS.
That's a really important distinction. What are some red flags? How can owners spot someone who might not be qualified or might even make things worse?
Okay, big red flags. Anyone guaranteeing quick fixes or fast results, behavior change is complex and takes time. Definitely anyone recommending or using punishment, intimidation, or aversive tools like shot collars, prong collars, choke chains.
Absolutely not.
No. And also, be very wary of anyone still relying on outdated, disproven concepts like dominance theory or needing to be the alpha. These approaches are counterproductive and often based on misunderstanding canine behavior that will likely increase fear and anxiety.
Got it. Well, this has been incredibly insightful. To kind of wrap up the main idea, separation-related disorder isn't bad behavior, it's a complex emotional pathology.
Mhm.
And tackling it requires an integrated plan, the family. Science-based professionals working together, focusing on changing the dog's underlying emotional state, not just suppressing symptoms. The real goal is helping the dog develop emotional competence and autonomy.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
And perhaps a final thought for listeners still considering whether to seek help. Think about the broader picture. Untreated TRS means chronic stress for the dog, which has real physical consequences.
Yeah.
GI problems, skin issues are common.
Right.
But it also deeply impacts the whole family's quality of life. Social plans get canceled, there might be conflict with neighbors over noise, the bond with the dog suffers, and sadly, it's a major reason dogs end up in shelters. Addressing it early isn't just about the dog, it's about the well-being and harmony of the entire home. Maybe take a moment to reflect.
Yeah.
Are you truly functioning as that consistent, reliable, secure base for your dog? Or could that foundation use some strengthening?